Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this Zoom Q&A regarding the Fiasco Theater Conservatory program. My name is Noah Brody, and I am one of the co-artistic directors here at Fiasco. Just want to welcome everyone. Those of you that are joining us today for this Q&A, as well as our panelists. Thank you so much for those of you joining us here to lend your expertise and your heart and your thoughts to this panel. To Rachel Lynn, who will introduce herself in a moment and who will be our moderator. Thank you, Rachel. Today's Q&A is closed captioned, and it will be is ASL interpreted. For those of you interested in using the captioning, you can click the link in the chat. Our ASL interpreter today is Lisa. Thank you, Lisa. And our transcriber today is Andrew. Again, there's a link in the chat if you want to use that transcription. And thank you to All Hands in Motion and Lisa for interpreting today's Q&A. She certainly has her hands full with the number of people on this panel. Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to take a moment now just to do a land acknowledgement. So I will invite everyone here just to take a breath. If you like, find yourself in a comfortable position, perhaps feet flat on the floor, whatever is comfortable for you in this moment. Close your eyes. Let's just take a breath together. And see if you can find yourself aware of yourself, your body, your connection to the seat or the floor or your feet and the ground, to the air around you, the earth and the water below you, the sky above. And find an awareness of yourself as being connected to all of those things. And as well as being connected to everyone else on this Zoom call today. Despite being in different locations, see if you can extend your awareness to all the other humans on this call. And perhaps we can just breathe together for a moment. Fiasco acknowledges that all of our work here in New York City has taken place on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Lenape people. We honor and acknowledge the indigenous people, past and present, who have and continue to steward this land, as well as those who have been and continue to be displaced from this land. And in this time of virtual meeting, we also want to acknowledge that Zoom, the platform on which we gather, is headquartered in what we now call San Jose, California, is on the traditional lands of the Ohlone and Tamien peoples. I today am coming to you from the ancestral lands of the Lenape people, presently called Brooklyn, New York. Thank you. Open your eyes. I'm going to hand over now to Rachel Lynn, who is moderating today's Q&A. Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I am so honored to be here. I think the first thing that we'll do is introductions, and I'll just model the introduction, and then we'll all go around and call on each other. So when you're finished introducing yourself, just call on the person who you want to hear from next. So my name is Rachel. My pronouns are she, her. I'm located in Brooklyn, Lenape lands, and I am a Fiasco Conservatory alum. I first was introduced to Fiasco through their 2-week intensive program, and then I decided to do the 6-week conservatory. So I was in the inaugural class, and those are the things that we'll be talking about in our introductions. And I'm going to pass it over to Christopher.
Hi, my name is Christopher Zoe. I am also in Brooklyn on Lenape land. Just moved from Queens to here. Uh, my pronouns are he, him, and I did the 2022 9-week conservatory, and I think I had been I found out about it online, but I had the application date saved for a while before I applied. So yeah, and I passed it to Maisha.
Hey everybody, I'm Tamisha. I use she, her pronouns. And I am also a Fiasco alumni, and I'm also the 9-week conservatory coordinator. And I was introduced to Fiasco via one of their productions. I saw a show, and one of my friends also spoke highly of it, so I decided to apply. And I was actually in the same cohort with Rachel. And I would love to pass it to Devin.
Hello, my name is Devin E. Hawk. My pronouns are he, him. I'm currently located in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm directing a play down here at the University of South Carolina, but I live and am based in Brooklyn, New York. I am a new member of Fiasco's acting company, and I served as a faculty member for the 9-week conservatory this year. And it was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with the new emerging artists that we get to meet in that program and to be a part of their growth and development as artists. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Let me pass it to Katie.
Hello, my name is Katie Polensky. I use she, her pronouns. I am right now located in Oxnard, California. And I'm here for a play. I'm doing a play at the Rubicon Theater in Ventura. And I was a member of the 9WC this past year in March through May.
Okay, and those are our panelists. Did you want to say something else, Katie?
I don't know, do I need to pass it on to anybody else?
I think we got everybody who's
Great.
speaking on the panel. So just to very quickly talk about why you're all here, viewers, and why we're here. Let's just assume that everybody watching has gone on, they're interested in the Fiasco training program. They've gone onto the website. They've read everything they possibly can. And we're here to answer any questions you might have, to get a deeper understanding of what this thing is you're applying for or interested in participating in for 9 weeks. So to just start off the conversation, I'm gonna throw this over to Noah and see if you can talk a little bit about the impetus for starting a training program, seeing as Fiasco already has, is so well known for, your work and the shows you produce. How did the idea for training program come about?
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, well, training, in fact, has been part of our passion and our mission since inception. Almost, in fact, the very first thing we ever did as Fiasco was to teach. Ben Steinfeld and myself co-taught a class. And that comes out of, I think, our experience, our graduate school experience, where we were multi-hyphenate creators. And those of us who sort of self-assembled as Fiasco were the kinds of actors, directors, writers, multi-hyphenate artists, and students who are passionate not just about making work, but about the conversations about how the work is made. And so we became very interested very early in a kind of perspective and an ethos around actor training, our own training at that time, and then ideas that we felt we were passionate about and wanted to share. So we've always wanted to teach. And one of the things we sort of realized for ourselves after, especially after graduate school and trying to extend our own training, is when we looked around, we had a hard time finding programs where we ourselves wanted to study and where there wasn't a huge bar to be met in terms of especially money, being able to find good training for the kinds of artists we perceived ourselves to be at the time, which is we have something we want to share and we want to keep learning. So we thought there's an opportunity both for us to share our passion and to try to meet a need for young early career and mid-career artists who want to continue training and but for whom they can find a home and not have to decide between paying rent and getting decent training. And we've built that and have decided as an organization are committed to creating, if we can, a full-time school that would offer, fundamental training that an artist could walk away with and say, it's shifted the way they think and engage with the work in their own work. So I could ramble on forever, so I'll just leave it there for now.
Okay, great. Perfect. And so I was in 6WC in 2019, so it's been a while now. So for me and for anybody who might be interested, can you tell us about the curriculum of the 9WC? And this is for either the alumni of 9WC, Devin, any of the faculty. What can students expect in terms of classes and schedule and potentially teachers?
Well, Noah, you can probably answer this better than me, but I'll just jump in and say I know that clown was as a component that has been a part of it when it was 6WC and it carried over to the 9WC. I think that's really an important part of our curriculum because it also bleeds over into the acting work in terms of creating character. It's not just about being funny. It's heavily classical text based, so we work on Shakespeare. There was a classical acting track in the 9WC, and there was contemporary track. There was also voice and speech and movement or yoga, right? There was a yoga instructor that facilitated class as well as a movement track. So we're covering all the basis of performance. And then what's unique about the 9WC is that we did 6 weeks of training, and then we took the last 3 weeks and applied that to the production of a project. And it was like a project cycle for the last 3 weeks. So the cohort was split into 2 ensembles, and each of those ensembles worked on putting up a play. And that's how the last 3 weeks of the time was spent, actually applying the skills that we've built up and learned into the rehearsal process for practical application.
Amazing.
You want to add anything to that?
Just for clarification, when you say there's a contemporary track and a classical track, is it like students have to choose a track, or does it just mean there's classical training and then there's also a contemporary training class?
Yes, the latter. So there were acting classes that the text and material was Shakespeare, and then there were acting classes where the material was more contemporary writers, and those happened. Equal time was given to both of those tracks throughout the weeks of the training cycle. Yeah.
And I should say here, if any of our attendees have questions, feel free to use the Q&A function and put those questions in the chat. Yes, thank you, Kelly. Kelly's supporting us by managing the chat. All right. Do any of the alumni want to weigh in on that, on the curriculum?
Yeah, I thought it was really cool to have both like contemporary and classical at the same time, like to switch back and forth. I feel like in the past, like it's like usually like a section and then you move on to the other section, but I really enjoyed having them at the same time. And then we were also like, I think for the contemporary work, we were doing it from like an ensemble, like everyone. And then for the classical, we started with our monologues, and it was a cool progression. And like we worked in opposite directions from the ensemble to singular. And yeah, and definitely like clown was definitely a big draw for me too. because it was like not usually something that gets included. It's usually just like voice and movement, which are great, but clown was like a bonus, and like yoga was a bonus. Like Alexander was a bonus. Like there's so many bonuses. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Please, Katie, no need to raise hands. We're all friends here.
Okay. Um, I think one of the things that I really liked about all of the curriculum was the way that it felt like the things I found myself needing to work on, I found different ways into that from different classes. So
Mm.
like, if I'm working on like my grounding or my presence, the classical acting class offers me one way into that. Contemporary offers another. Clowning offers another way into that. Yoga, voice, Alexander, they all, they're very complementary. I think the classes all work really well together, and there are parallels in the classes that help you move forward in a way that feels sustainable,
Mm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely does to me. And Tamisha, please also feel free to weigh in. But one thing that I experienced as an alumni is like exactly what you're saying, Katie. There's some really, it's very clear that the classes are intentional, and everything, the way the curriculum is organized is intentional to create that exact thing you're talking about, Katie, the cross pollination.
To add, yeah, that I always say that I found Fiasco and Fiasco found me at a time where I felt really lost. I was feeling really stuck in my craft. And so I feel like me arriving at Fiasco with everything that I was willing to offer, I found a place to get started, very quickly. I feel like one thing the faculty does a really great job of is just listening to your prior experiences and like listening to the things that you want to target, so that when you are up and you are presenting work or you are working on something, they're able to effectively call you out, like lovingly, they're effectively able to call you out and challenge you in ways that's going to really help you grow. So that was my big takeaway from the 6-week conservatory.
And that's a really good segue, I think, into like the why of, I'm interested in why these, like you as alumni decided to apply to this particular program, and then decided to attend, in case there's anybody watching or listening who is on the fence, but maybe they share your why and they can feel reassured, this is going to be the place for them. So if Chris or Katie want to take this one, or whoever wants to go first.
I had made a move. So I'm from the East Coast, was in California for a long time, and had kind of put my pursuit of acting, as, I don't want to say on the back burner, but it was on the side. And was not finding like where I truly fit in Los Angeles and in the theater scene here. And decided I wanted to move to the East Coast. And entering Fiasco was really serendipitous for me. I was late on I didn't know about the program right off the bat. I think I saw the staged reading of Imogen Says Nothing, which I believe that reading happened after applications were closed for the conservatory. So then I had seen Fiasco's Into the Woods when it was in Los Angeles years and years and years ago. Maybe not years and years, years ago. And so then after seeing Imogen Says Nothing, I looked at the website and saw that the deadline was passed. I emailed anyway. And then because of Omicron, things got pushed back, and there ended up being an opening, and I was able to audition. And so the this is a roundabout way of coming to this. I apologize, but it just worked out so beautifully for me. And it was at exactly the right moment. I had moved to Philadelphia and found myself wanting to be in New York instead. So I arrived in New York in my sublet the night before classes started. I think I finally settled in at 4:30 in the morning and like woke up at 8 in the morning to like get to classes on time. And it has, the 9 weeks gave me this opportunity to dive into my craft and my work in a way that I have not done in years. And I have a lot of habits to unlearn. I've been doing this for like a hot minute now. So I didn't necessarily feel like I had these like giant light bulb moments, but I had little light bulb moments that like, it's like the little lights coming on a little bit at a time for me through this. I think that got a little rambly and off track, but that's where I am. That's how I came into all this.
That's perfect. And I think it's really useful for people to hear that there are people who attend the program who aren't based in New York, or who come from somewhere else and move temporarily or to New York. So I think that's super useful for people to hear.
And it made me want to stay afterwards. So I'll be back in a couple weeks.
Christopher?
Yeah, we had a bunch of people from like, we had 2 Canadians, like 2, yeah. My why, I think acting's like a second career, like a second life path for me. It's not even a career, I think. I worked in film production before, and it's not in a creative field. And I think I had been yearning for like, just like actual training. And I've been trying to get into grad school. Like, I think it was my second time applying to grad school when I applied to Fiasco. It was like right before my auditions last year. And it was just, I was like, oh, so it was just like kind of like the deeper training that I wanted. And yeah, and I think I really did get that. It was like, I was like, okay, like even if grad school doesn't work out, I still got the training that I wanted, because it was kind of like what Noah was saying. It's like, it was like more accessible. Because I feel like grad school sometimes can be this like big thing, and then like, not everyone gets in, and not everyone can afford to go, whatever the reason. So I'm really happy that I got to do Fiasco. And yeah.
Amazing. Thank you. And I got some feedback from last year's panel that it might be good if I also speak a little bit about, the questions. So I'm just going to say, one thing that really drew me to the program is that I, like Christopher, was interested in more training and something like grad school, but I know about myself that I have problems with authority and people like asserting their agendas onto me. And what really appealed to me about Fiasco, having worked with them in the 2-week intensive, is that there's like an ethos of just bringing more of yourself and not necessarily needing to break parts of you down or conform to someone's idea of who you are. And on that note, I would like to throw this to anybody, which is, speaking of the ethos of Fiasco, what, for the faculty, what to you is a successful end? What would make you feel like this conservatory was a success at the end of it? And then on the flip side, for the alumni leaving the program, what made you feel like, oh yeah, this was like a win, this thing was a win for me in some way?
Evan, do you want to start? Do you want me to start on the faculty side?
You should take this one.
Okay, this is a really really excellent question, Rachel. And I'll just say that it is a question that certainly Jesse, Ben, and I, and Devin will become part of this conversation as well very soon, is a very active question for us. What are our expectations? What are we hoping to impart? What can we reasonably expect? And in what amount of time? And how do we scale these things? What I hope for the students is that that they have been given an introduction and some know-how to a technique, and especially a rehearsal technique that puts them in charge of their own rehearsal process as an individual and as a member of an ensemble. And that they know what those things mean, and they have ideas about how to do it. And most importantly, they've started to learn for themselves what are useful questions as opposed to good answers. What are useful and generative questions that lead them toward the creation of a performance, an ensemble, an organization, a piece that they feel represents themselves honestly as artists. That's in the traditional sense of rehearsing a classical or traditional play. My other hope for students is that, it was mentioned that we offer, because we study and believe in movement and clown and Alexander technique and voice. And we believe that these things can synthesize into the work as opposed to being compartmentalized. But I also hope that people have found or start to find for themselves where their joy in poetry lives, so that someone may come in and because of the pedagogy of the program, they're going to do a good amount of Shakespeare, but they don't have to be good at Shakespeare or like to do Shakespeare. But it would be interesting if they discovered something about themselves in that work, or if they discovered something about clown, or something about wanting to create something for themselves as a solo artist, that their poetry gets unlocked because there are so many ways for artists to create theater in many more ways than we can offer or hope to offer in this conservatory, but we hope to give them lots of opportunities, little roads to travel, doors that have been opened for them to investigate, which is very different from hoping to create something like clones of ourselves.
Such a beautiful response. And actually, I'm going to move. Oh, Devin, do you want to weigh in on this?
Well, the only thing, that's why I wanted Noah to speak first, because I knew he could articulate that so beautifully. And the only thing I would add is the other component of it is the community building aspect, and the fact that the students who participate in the 9-week conservatory, it's my hope, and what I've seen come to pass with the 6-week and with the 9-week, is that they come out of that having expanded their network and having formed a community, an ensemble that they can hopefully continue to collaborate with and work with outside of the time they spend in those 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So that aspect of building community and expanding your network, and you're expanding the network of collaborators that you have access to, I think is fundamentally a part of the experience of being in Fiasco's 9-week conservatory.
And I can attest to that, because I know for our 6-week conservatory, we, during the pandemic, met a few times every week for almost a year. And then we actually did a little show together that Noah and Jesse so kindly attended. So it really does feel like you're forming your own, I don't know, mini company or something, junior company. But there's a question in the chat that I think is really important. So I would love to hear, I'm generally interested in, which is, how has the pandemic affected the program? What is, part of the question is, what safety precautions and protocols are in place, but also I'm curious, from the alumni standpoint, what is your experience of doing these classes, however you did them during the pandemic?
Yeah, the first part was we were all expecting it to start in January, and then it didn't. So that was like it was, big bummer, like change. But I think the way it worked out was like amazing because I couldn't have imagined anyone else in my class, and the timing of it like worked out was great for me personally. And also like when it moved to March, like we like did like a community survey thing, and people were comfortable not wearing masks. So that was a huge like I was like, oh, this is so much better without masks. And then we started masking up towards the end of it because by the time it got to May, things were like a little more high, high alerts. But overall, like I felt pretty safe, and it wasn't like, especially with the first community survey, I was like, it was just an ask to see if who was comfortable and who wasn't. It was like anonymous, I remember. So it wasn't something. So it felt good going in. It felt good knowing that everyone agreed to it. You know, like going maskless. And I feel like that was a general ethos like throughout the whole thing. And then by the time for the final for the play that I was in, we had like like someone tested positive, and then things didn't go as planned. Like so like it was like really like devastating, and then like we still like worked through it, and like I was like super about I was like, oh, I feel like we have to, like I don't know, it just like it wasn't what I had in my head of what the final thing was going to be, especially like missing like a classmate. Um, but but then we still did it, and it was still like it was what happened, and it was great. And yeah, and also I felt safe the whole time.
Kit,
I'm not gonna raise my hand. I'm not raising my hand.
go Kit, you go.
Just to add on to that, I mean, I will say that the first day of or like where we were all meeting each other and stuff, the first day when we were all meeting each other and we first like unmasked that day and shared the space together was very exciting. Really, really beautiful. And yeah, there were times where we had to navigate in between. One of the things that I actually really appreciated was that there was a very real respect for if someone didn't feel well and felt like they shouldn't be in class for the day because they were unwell and they were not sure of things, was that was allowed and respected. And as a result, I don't think that was abused. I don't think anybody was looking to participate in this program by not participating. So if people needed to stay home instead of risking worse sickness or getting other people sick, that was okay. I think for our final, I was in the other cast for the final 3 weeks, and we had one day where we performed masked and one day where we were able to perform unmasked, and both were valuable experiences. I felt like the program safely navigated through testing and when necessary masking. I felt like we successfully navigated COVID.
I just want to add in a little bit on the policy side that what we did is we were responding to a dynamic situation dynamically, or we attempted to anyway. So Chris alluded to the fact that we postponed the original date of the conservatory because we were in the middle of the Omicron spike, and we honestly didn't feel as though we could pull off the conservatory successfully. That we were afraid that we wouldn't be able to actually teach effectively in the middle of that, irrespective of what we're like, would it even be safe? So we postponed. Our policies that we set were originally we would mask and test twice a week. We continued testing twice a week and provided tests once it's when we started the program, they were all free all around the city and anyone could get tested anywhere. And then when they weren't free, PCR tests and rapid tests, we started providing those tests. So we had ongoing testing. And then when we had at the very end, when we had a breakout, I got COVID, and one of the actors in our project that Devin co-directed got COVID. we were out, and a true definition of what is success of the program was that the class that Chris was in, the production that Chris was in, they immediately, they had already been, but it seemed to me as though they really became an ensemble in that moment. They knew they had each other and only each other, and they trusted to Devin, and Devin no longer had a partner, but they looked to each other and came through beautifully. And I think that's the ultimate test of success for a theater program based on ensemble theater making, is that when problems came along, they just decided to look at each other and say, hell with it, we're going for it. Let's link arms and step forward. So that was part of what, the response to COVID as well. Looking forward, we will assess based upon facts on the ground, guidance from the CDC, and always adhere to CDC guidance and try to protect our community and the communities that they're parts of, so that we think about not just the student, but the grandparent that they may be taking care of at home, or the sibling who is immunocompromised or something like that. So we try to factor that into our thinking for the individual as we try to create a safe community.
Amazing.
Also would love to add that there were also COVID deputies that was also a part of the program that helped implement policies. So there was like a whole team of people dedicated to specifically responding to COVID. And I think that we couldn't have been as successful as we were without them. So I really think the faculty really took into consideration the fact that not everybody is safe, meeting with COVID. So that was like a real big consideration. And so we had 2 COVID deputies that were a part of the cohort that were responsible for communicating and reaching out, coordinating tests, making sure everybody had what they need, resources and things like that. So everybody did feel safe in a space to be able to create work.
And just to say, those were like work study positions. They were compensated for the extra time that they had to put into managing those functions.
Okay, so I think that we could all stay here and talk forever about this program, but we only have time for one more question. And before I get to it, I just want to say, I know there are some questions in the chat, and our lovely Kelly Letourneau will actually respond to you individually, since we don't really have enough time. But I think to end, I want to love to talk about, I think anybody coming into a program or any kind of training, there is a reality, which is like, you also have to live in the real world and live in your life, and that can be hard. And so I want to hear from alum about, if you have one piece of advice for everybody who's on this call who gets into the program, what is the one piece of advice you would impart to them to maximize and optimize the experience? And as far as our faculty, if you have any thoughts about resources potential new students might be able to, look to in terms of support. And then after that, I'm going to throw this over to Tamaisha to talk about the application process. So off you go, whoever wants to tackle first.
Well, I was actually gonna kick it off.
Oh, great.
My biggest piece of advice for anyone applying, I think, and this is one just as a student, but then also as the 9-week conservatory coordinator, you have to ask what you need, and you have to be honest and upfront about your access needs, because it's important that you are able to advocate, and you just never know. A lot of times, well, I will say with Fiasco, they do a really great job of trying to make it accessible, inclusive. And if you have something that, you might think would get in the way of you attending, if you bring it to our attention, I feel like this entire team is really good at taking that into consideration and trying to find a solution for you. So my biggest piece of advice is just to ask for what you need. You'd be surprised. We'll work it out. Like, we're humans. We're all trying to, create this work and come together and do beautiful things. And we care. And I think that's on both sides, on the student side, and also being the coordinator, I saw a lot of care. So I feel like we care. So just ask for what you need and be honest about it. We're here for you.
Um, question was about like maximizing the time in the conservatory.
Yeah, what would you say, if people get in, what would you recommend? How
Um,
do they go about it?
yeah, I think a lot of what Tamaisha was saying, like just like think about what you need. I think is very important because for me, I was like, okay, this is like what I'm setting aside time to do, and I think actually like time wise, like Fiasco is very like conscious about like the amount of time we're spending in rehearsal, and like I think there's a lot of care there, um, but also like yeah, sometimes I like try to do a lot of things, but then like really just focusing on what I'm doing today and being present for each thing and maximizing it instead of like worrying about tomorrow, even, and like the other stuff. Is like really enjoying the time that I have. Cause yeah, 9 weeks go by so fast.
In terms of maximizing time, eat regularly, sleep. There are aspects of it can get intense and like emotionally, and there's a lot of digging that happens in a good way. So like being aware of what you need to sustain yourself and to take care of the people around you. Speaking up for yourself, advocating for yourself, but also saving space for others to do the same thing. And journal. Like keep your actor journal during the day, like write down what you're doing, what you're going through, and then like do your human self journal at some other point during the day, because like sometimes there are things that overlap and sometimes there are things that are separate.
Rachel, I was just going to throw into the aspect of the question that is about how challenging it can be to like live and work in the city. Is that we are on Fiasco side, we're trying to engage more fully with former students and current students about their needs, their challenges, so that we've put that into our thinking for each iteration of this. And that has to do with connecting alumni to each other, because you all will be able to guide students, active students, in like how do you navigate the city in I think a much more contemporary way than those of us who, my life is around like kids' schedules and like, getting to school and stuff like that. So it's about connecting students and alumni to each other, about opening the door at least for people to share their access needs and feel as though they can tell us that like, hey, I want to be able to rehearse, but I have to maintain this job at night in order to do this thing, so that we set our expectations and our goals appropriately, or provide support so that they can do the things that we want them to be able to do to be as successful as they can be, which might mean carving out time away from class to provide rehearsal time during the week or something like that. These are areas of active discussion inside the curriculum to figure out how we can help challenge the students in the good ways, but alleviate stresses that are coming from outside.
Amazing. Okay. I think that's a perfect segue to hand it over just to Tamaisha to tell everybody. So Tamaisha is the application coordinator. Is that the right title, Tamaisha?
It's like more like the conservatory coordinator. So like usually any issues that arise, you'll be reaching out to, when you hit classes at Fiasco Theater, you would be reaching out to me and the team.
Amazing.
So not just applications, but like throughout the process.
This is the beautiful and kind human that you will be emailing during your time in the conservatory. So everybody gets so excited about that. And I'm going to hand it off to you now to tell everybody about all the logistics around application and important dates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Rachel. So again, everybody, I'm Tamisha. So the applications are actually open right now for you to apply. If you're interested in applying, you would go to fiascotheater.com and there's an apply now tab. I have my little notes here, so forgive me. But the applications are open now. The conservatory will run from January 9th, 2023 to March the 11th of 2023. And the applications are due Tuesday, November 1st at 11:59 p.m. Financial aid applications are also due at the exact same time. I would like to say, especially when it comes to financial aid, if you feel like you need aid, please apply, because 100% of our applicants that applied last year for financial aid were actually able to receive aid. So I think that's, again, speaking to Fiasco's willingness to just make sure that this training is accessible for people, regardless of your financial status. Both the financial application and also the actual application to the conservatory is online right now. Should I say any more specifics? Because a lot of like the cost of the program, that's already online. A lot of like there's like a special section for people who have questions. Our most asked questions are online as well. But if you have anything like specific that I should know or talk about, I'm happy to.
I think you covered logistically, I think you covered most of everything that we talked about, or that Kelly wants us to talk about. One thing I'm just going to highlight in the chat, because I don't know if this chat will be available for people watching, but somebody did ask very specifically about the hours during the class and the rehearsal expectations. And I'm just going to read Kelly's answer, which is conservatory will meet Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 for 9 weeks. And then outside of that, there is rehearsal time, but I believe, and maybe you can speak to this, Tamisha, it's up to the students to coordinate their rehearsal schedules.
Yeah, so I will say that last year we had a calendar that everybody had access to, so they were able to book space on their own accord. If they were no longer available for their rehearsal space, they were also able to cancel it or reach out to me. But there was space provided via Fiasco for you to rehearse. And so you would just log into a calendar. We do monitor it just because we want to make sure that everyone has equal access and that no one person is like using up all the space. But again, that's not really an issue, but we do make sure that we try to have as much space available to everybody at all times.
Okay, I think that's all, folks. That's all she wrote. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and to everybody who's watching this retroactively. I think I don't want to speak for everybody, but as an alum, I have to say it's probably one of like the best things I've done in terms of my own training, and like Katie said, came exactly at the right time that I needed it to come. So in my life, so if you're feeling that pull, that draw, I would highly encourage you to apply and follow that impulse in Fiasco fashion. Okay, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.